Good morning, Believe Nation. Today we're going to talk about the top 10 writing tips and advice from famous authors.
The great thing about our profession is there are no rules. Think for a minute what it's like if you want to be a classic ballet dancer, or if you want to be a great violinist, or if you want to be a symphony conductor, or if you want to be a painter, if you want to be a movie maker. All those fields involve communal apprenticeship, personal instruction, time practicing, many rules, many ways to do it, but a lot of rules, and rules that involve other people. Our profession, the profession of being a writer, doesn't involve any of that. All you need is a computer and a word processing program, or a typewriter and some paper. And you can create your whole novel. You can create a War and Peace, or you can create The Old Man and the Sea. You know, a short lyrical novel or a great big saga. You can do it all right there at the keyboard. You make it happen. And it's the most wonderful profession because you can begin it at any time. You can do that writing anywhere. You can do it in a cafe with your laptop. You can do it at a kitchen table. You can do it in a garage office. And every year somebody makes it to the bestseller list who started out that way, in their bedroom, writing late at night, or at the kitchen table. It's always been a profession where outsiders can easily break in, because it doesn't require equipment, it doesn't require tutelage, it doesn't require advancement amongst a group of people. You do it all yourself.
How do you start writing a book? Well, the starting point is you look within yourself and you ask, what message do you have that could really benefit or help or change other people? What message do you have that you would want your children to know to be able to live a better life? What message do you have inside that burns inside of you? You like to talk about it and explain it. And when you see articles in the newspaper about your message, you've got an opinion. You want to say or something, comment something. This is where you start. It's got to come out of you. And then what you have to do is remember that the great rule of life is prioritizing. Is you have so many ideas, but you've got to select one. And then what you do is you write at the top of a piece of paper, what are all the things I would want to talk about or include in this book if I was going to write it? And then you just simply write your answer to this question. Well, I want to mention this, and I want to mention that, and I want to mention this statistic and this quote and this story, and you just start writing. When I start to write a book, this is my technique, and I'll end up sometimes with 3 long pages of points, point. This is the starting point. It's almost like starting off down a hill when you're skiing. You then start to move faster and faster.
I was just wondering what advice you would give young people who are considering careers as writers. I guess you should buy your book.
Well, I think you ought to read a lot, and I think you ought to write a lot. And those are really the 2 major things. You can't put it off. You have to really do the work. You have to be well read. I don't have any patience with people who say, "Oh man, I want to be a writer, but I don't have time to read." Well, if you don't have time to read, you can't be a writer. You've got to read just about everything. So I think that's the most important thing. And then you have to read, and I mean you have to write in order to develop a style, to create a style of your own. And when it comes to the reading part of it, there's a magic moment, a really magic moment. If you read enough, it will always come to you if you want to be a writer, where you put down some book and say, this really sucks. I can do better than this. and this got published.
A book, if it's going to succeed at all, if it's going to have any chance of succeeding, it's got to be vibrant and alive, and it's got to have a beating heart. It's got to be organic, and then it stands a chance. If it's not any of those things, then it's got no chance. I'm not saying it's guaranteed success, because that's in the lap of the gods, but to get to the starting line, you got to have a vitality to the book, and the only way you can get that vitality is to have one mind working on it, which is yours. If you sit down to write a book and you say, this is what I really want to do, but this author says, do it this way, and that author says, no, do it this way, and the third author says, well, what about this? If you start doing it by committee, you're lost. It has no vitality. It just comes out like a cardboardy thing. And so the best advice for a budding writer is ignore all advice.
I have some basic advice about how to approach writing, but you must remember what I said, there are no rules. So if what I say isn't useful to you, forget it. But what has always helped me was something a friend of mine, Floyd Salas, a novelist, told me in Berkeley years ago. He said, go where the pain is when you write. Go where the pain is. And I think what Floyd meant was write about what hurts. Go back to the memory that causes you conflict and pain and almost makes you not able to breathe, and write about it, explore it in the privacy of your room with that keyboard. Go where that pain is. Don't be afraid of that. Well, I would add another rule to Floyd's. Go where the pleasure is. Go where you really want to be in writing. Write the exciting thing that you want to write. Write the book that's interesting to you. If you find that you're bored with the book, don't give it up and put it aside. Think, okay, well, what do I have to do to this book to make it interesting to me? Should I maybe change point of view? Should my character have a revelation? Should he just jump up and do something completely different? I mean, what do I have to do to make it exciting to me? And if you keep doing that with the book, if you keep making it exciting to you, if you keep doing what's interesting to you, pretty soon you'll be getting out of bed in the morning and thinking, I've got to get to work because I want to find out what happens. I mean, that certainly is what happens to me when I'm writing. I'm writing away, and I get up and I think, oh my God, I have to know what Reuben is going to do up at Night Egg Point. I left all the characters, doing this and that. I have to know what's going to happen, what we're going to find out. And what we find out has to be exciting to me. And if you follow that rule, at least if I follow it, a book results, and that book is exciting to me, and it's exciting to other people. Not all of them. For every book I've written has gotten reviews on Amazon that say, this is the worst book ever published. This woman does not know how to write. So, you can't bat 1,000. You can't win them all. But if you follow that advice, I think you will turn out the book that you yourself are proud of, the book that you love, and the book that you want to take out into the world.
I often get asked by younger readers what I would advise if you want to be a writer. This is the way I did it, so that's the only advice I can give. You've got to read as much as you possibly can, because that's the best way to recognise good writing and to learn what makes bad writing, and those are very good things. You'll probably go through a phase where you imitate your favourite writers. That's perfectly okay. That's another learning process. You resign yourself to writing lots and lots of rubbish. You just got to write that out of your system, and sooner or later you'll hit what you really should be doing and what is your genre. And perseverance. You've got to persevere, because it's a career with a lot of knockbacks, but the rewards are huge. I don't mean in the sense that if that's what you really want to do, to be able to do it lifelong is the best thing in the world. Very rewarding. But it's not a career for people who are easily discouraged, that's for sure. And to their parents, don't tell them it's unrealistic. Never say that. Because even if they're not published, writing is the passion of my life, so it's an important thing to do.
The key, to me, the key of writing is this is it, which is, if you guys want a writer and who wants to write, is my first thing is I assume no one cares. Whatever I'm writing about, I assume no one cares about what I'm writing about. Nobody cares about me. Yeah. Nobody cares about what I have to say. No one cares about the things I care about. Yeah. And if you just go from the premise that nobody cares, and how can I make them care? From the first sentence, from the first paragraph, at the end of that chapter, how I'm going to make them turn to the next chapter. To me, my main goal is to keep it interesting for the people and assume no one's interested.
What is inspiration? Inspiration is breathing, right? So you put what is inside of you, and then you expire. So inspiration is something that everybody has, not only writers. Everybody has when you or she or he do things with love. It is connected to this energy that we don't understand, we can explain, but it is connected with the energy of love. If you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to be inspired to share with other people. However, inspiration, you cannot guide inspiration. Inspiration is a boat, and you are in this boat in a sea. So there is this gigantic sea, and your boat is taking you. Inspiration is guiding you. Inspiration is this wind that is guiding you towards your destiny. If you try to guide inspiration, you're lost. You can do it, of course, but then go and write a technical book. What you need to do, what at least I need to do when I sit down to write, is to have an overall idea, as I mentioned in my previous podcast, but then allow myself to be guided by this overall idea. I go into this boat of inspiration, I sit here. Every morning when I'm writing a new book, when I was writing a laugh, normally I started at 11 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, I had the ideas of the previous night where I was upstairs in my bed thinking, tomorrow I need to write about this, this, and this, and this. And I took a lot of notes. Then I sit here, I read these notes, and I said, oh, let's try to do this, but I know it's not going to work. And then you start using your notes to write the next page, the next chapter. But the notes are not connected with your inspiration or my inspiration. So after half an hour trying to do this or that, I finally get into this boat, because you need discipline also to go into this boat. And I allow myself to be guided.
The first, even though I'm not a fiction writer at this point, who knows, maybe I'll try that and make a mess of things. But Bird by Bird, for all the psychological trials and tribulations, Bird by Bird is the book that I read when I feel like I'm going into the abyss or having a complete meltdown. It's a wonderful book for getting out of that. But I also would say, like, when you're stuck, when you're not sure what to write, tell a story. So, like, don't describe it, show it. So if you're like, oh, how should I describe this point, do this, do that, like bullet point this, bullet point that, give an example, give a story. So
what's an example of how you did that in the 4-Hour Workweek?
Well, anytime I hit a sticking point, which was very, very, very often, I would, there were a couple things that I would ask myself, whose story can I tell? Like, who embodies this point or this principle? I mean, Jack obviously is a master of this style of storytelling. And secondly, Poe Bronson is a great writer and has written many, many good books. At one point, I heard him on a panel, and somebody in the crowd asked him about writer's block, and he said, well, when I get writer's block, I think about what makes me really, really angry, and I write about that. And it's actually fantastic advice. If you write about what most frustrates you, why it frustrates you, and then like what you did about it, you usually come up with something good. And I would also emphasize, sorry, I have a lot of thoughts on this, but the book is the most important thing. You need to bake the product, the marketing into a good book. Like that for me, that is almost all of it. And then the rest, a lot of it takes care of itself. But what I would say is, make your quota really small. So 2 crappy pages a day, that's your quota. For me, that's the only way I can slog through a book.
Two crappy pages a day. This idea of 2 is I think we're hitting the number 2. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I cannot think of a book, or I'll just want to like cry into my pillow and go to sleep. I can't do it.
The biggest advice I can give you is finish one book. When you finish one book, even if it's the worst book ever written in history, something changes in your mind and you think, wow, I finished a book. I can write a book. and it becomes much easier. And then it's like piano or football or singing, anything. Practice makes you better. So write another book and keep writing, and you'll get better, and you'll get published, and you'll come visit us in America, and we'll scream for you.
I think the best thing to do is to remember that you have to send it out. Lots of people think that they have a best-selling book, but it's downstairs in the third drawer of their desk. Now, you have to send it out. The publishers cannot be inspired. They cannot come to your house with a demolition gang saying, we understand there's a manuscript here. You have to send it to them. And then by doing that, you have to risk rejection. If you don't go to a dance, when we were young, if we didn't go to a dance, then you didn't have the humiliation of people passing you by and not dancing with you. But you also had no fun. And don't send it to other writers. If somebody sent me a manuscript, my secretary and I would have a note ready saying, I'm returning your manuscript to you unread. You and I are in competition with each other. I'm the wrong person to write to. And that's actually the truth. Because I might accidentally steal an idea from something, or I deliberately, if I was that kind, steal an idea from somebody. So it has to be a publisher or an agent. And it is absolutely wearying getting all those rejection slips. I could have papered the house with rejection slips. And even for my first novel, I got 5 rejection slips, and I was sending it out the 6th time. I really was very, very depressed about it. And the 6th person rang up and said, it's wonderful, it's going to be a bestseller. So, you know, as we often laugh and say the first 5 must be a bit sour now. And so that's what you always think about. You have to be full of confidence and send it out there and risk the rejection, because you're never going to get anywhere until you put your first foot on that ladder.
Thank you so much for watching. I made this video because Monshel Mitchell asked me to. So if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in the next edition of Believe Life, let me know, leave it in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do. I'd also love to know which of the clips resonated with you and why. What of the advice meant the most to you as someone who's just finished writing his first book. I wish I had some of this knowledge sooner, but I'll definitely apply it to future books that I write. So let me know what you think. What did you really enjoy about it? What future topics as well do you want me to cover in Believe Life for this series? Leave it down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Continue to believe, and I'll see you soon.
The best writing advice I ever got, and I got this early on, and I'm glad I did, was to write a certain number of words on a regular basis, a quota of words. Because then you look up 3 months, 4 months, maybe it takes a year, but you look up at some point and then you've got a completed novel. And you learn so much by completing a novel. And that's why I have people like Ed McBain, also known as Evan Hunter, looking over my shoulder saying, "Write, you fool, write!" I mean, he was incredibly prolific under 2 or 3 pseudonyms. Over there is John D. MacDonald, the guy with the red-hot typewriter, they said. He was incredibly prolific because he did it as a job. He treated it as a job. Now, I used to do a daily quota, but that proved to be very onerous. I felt like I was a slave to it. And, you know, if I messed up, if I missed a day, I would really beat myself up. So I do a weekly quota now, and I divide it into days. And if I miss a day, then I know that I can make it up on another day. Plus, I take 1 day off a week to recharge my batteries. Now, you do that day, after week, after month, after year, you become what's called a prolific writer.
I do not ask my readers what they want and then write that book. But I will cherry pick little bits and pieces. But I think ultimately, Steve Jobs said this, Henry Ford said it, like, people don't really know what they want.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep, I agree.
So it's like, what do you want? I want a faster horse, not a Model T.
Yeah, a lot of people will do that. They'll survey their audience and ask what they want or think of what'll be big or what'll be popular. And the thing is, I talk with rock bands about this a lot because I interview a lot of rock bands. I said, all your audience knows is what you've done before. They don't know what you're going to do next. So all they want is what you've done before, and if you keep doing what you've done before, they're going to get bored.
And you're going to get bored too.
And you're going to get bored too. And so to me, it's like how I choose what I'm going to write about is I really always try to stay 1 step ahead. But it's not even trying that. I write about what I care about the most in that particular moment of my life. and because it's going to have that passion. I mean, I've seen people, I was talking to a writer today, and he has over 1 million Twitter followers, and a very big platform, and he wrote a book that did not do very well. Because I think he wrote what was a clever book everyone would like versus writing something he really, really cared about that was important to him. And literally, I think you can make anything interesting if you really care about it enough. If you care about that pillow and the story of that pillow and where it was made and how it was made and who made it and what their story is. You can dive into anything if you care about it and make it interesting.
Once you do finish that book, once you've got it, don't take no for an answer from anybody. No matter how many rejections you get, keep going. Keep going. Don't listen to anybody who rejects a book, and never revise that book because you got a rejection from an editor with a bunch of, negative advice. Never do that. Any editor who rejects your book doesn't get it. Don't revise for that person. Wait till you get a letter from an editor that says, we really love your book, we'd like to publish it. Do you think you could see your way clear to maybe shortening it a bit or changing this or that? That's when you listen. That's when you decide. Now, say you've written your book, you've sent it to every New York publisher you know of, and they've all rejected it. What do you do then? Do you give up? No, you do not give up. Self-publish. It's never been easier. There are all kinds of ways to do it, and there are stories every few weeks about self-published authors who are suddenly being picked up by New York publishers. They're being discovered, or they've made hundreds of thousands of dollars on their own. I mean, we hear about it all the time. So if you're out there, if you're writing, you need stubbornness, you need courage, you need faith in yourself that's as strong as any talent you may possess. And you need to write that book the way you want to write it and keep trying to get it published. And if that doesn't work, self-publish it. That's the best advice I can give you or any other writer. And again, if this advice doesn't work for you, throw it out the window.